Today I want to talk to you about grid template areas. We haven't covered this technique just yet in this small mini series of tutorials about CSS Grid, and as an example we are going to be using this medium.com site and this first part of it, which is a pretty complicated grid, but the cool thing about it is when you change the resolution you can see how this grid changes in pretty dramatic ways. So we want to do something like that today, and we are going to do that by mainly using grid template area directive in CSS. So let's take a look at this grid in a bit more detail. So if you select this section called Hero Grid, so this is our grid, and I can just turn on the grid right here so that I can see the full layout of the grid, and you can do that in the Layout tab when you open your developer tools in Firefox. And also you can choose to display line numbers or not, display area names, or extend lines infinitely. So I'm just going to turn this off, and we don't even need the line numbers, so I'm going to turn them off also. So what is interesting for us in this episode is actually these LG, 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 S1, S2, these labels. So these labels actually represent grid areas. So this is the grid area number S1, this is the grid area S2, LG, and so on. And you can call those grid areas however you like. So grid template areas are actually another way for you to control your grid, to size your grid, and to put items in your grid. And if you check out the code for this one, if you check out the rules, you will see something, well, odd. So you can see this LG, 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 S1, S2. They also have this grid template columns repeat, so they have 12 columns, each 64 pixels wide, and they have 11 rows, each 28 pixels in height. But this is what we are interested in. So I'm just going to show you a little bit simplified example how would we work with this and how to use media queries to create these dramatic changes in your grid when you make the grid smaller, as you can see right here. So as you can see, I'm using PHP Storm instead of Sublime Text this time. I've been using it for a while now, and the theme for this editor currently is Material Pale Night. So that's all I'm going to say about it. I know some of you guys will be interested in that, so here you go. It's a PHP Storm. The theme is Material Pale Night. Okay, so let's get started. So I have this medium.html file here, and I'm just going to create a wrapper, which I'm going to be calling wrap. And in that wrap, I'm going to add a medium grid. So medium grid, this is going to be our grid container. And this wrap is just going to be the container around our page. So I'm just going to say 40 pixels auto, and that's it. Okay, so let's define our medium grid. And I'm calling it medium grid because it's based on the medium.com site. Okay, so medium grid, of course, we have to display grid. And then I'm just going to create a grid gap of 20 pixels, and we are going to define our grid template areas. Now we need some convention to name them. As you can, as I said before, template, okay, grid template areas. As I said before, you can name your grid template areas however you like, and I'm going to write it like this, so one line by one line instead of like we see here on Medium site, so that you can see what exactly is going on. So every one of these instructions inside these double quotes is going to be a row. So in that row we can put something in. So let's take a look at Medium site. So we have this right here, and we have S1, S2. So let's call it also LG, 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 and once more LG. So these are 4 columns that we have here right now, and let's make these two columns be these two areas be 2 columns wide for each one of them. So what did they call them? S1 and S2. So S1, S1, and S2, S2. So right now we are having we created a grid with 1 row and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 columns. Okay, so not your typical grid, but whatever. So, and I'm also going to just paste this in. So we are going to have these areas, so S1 and S2 areas are also going to wrap around 2 rows. So if I save this and go to this blank page right now, it may look blank, but if we go to Wrap, Medium Grid, and click on it and show it, as you can see, it doesn't look like much right now, but we can change that by using something like grid template rows. So we are going to repeat, let's say, 5 rows, and each one of those rows is going to be 50 pixels in height. So if I save this, maybe we will get a better display. So as you can see, now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 columns. Okay, so let's check this out. So this is 1, 2, 3. Okay, so the next one, the next area should be this CP area that we are going to be creating. So I'm just going to copy this. And we are still going to have this LG, 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 but this is going to be CP and CP. And so actually it's not going to be 2 times, it's going to be just 1, and then we are going to have, let me just see, MD and S3. So MD, S3. So let's see how this looks. And I'm going to make one more MD. So as you can see, we are getting close. Although, since we don't have enough columns, we are going to leave just this CP and S3 to be kind of smaller. And now I can just copy this out once again. And maybe once more. Right? So now we have a design that is kind of similar to this one. Of course, you would probably use 12 columns like they have here, but I don't want to write these letters 12 times every time. So now we have these grid template areas, and now let's say we want to put something in them. So I'm just going to create item number 1. Save it and say item 1 is going to go into the grid area called LG. So item 1 is going to cover all of this area right here, right? So this is going to be our item 1. And to do that, I would just say grid area. And I'm going to call that area LG. Also, I'm just going to give it a background of black so that we can see it better. So as you can see, this is now our whole grid area for the item 1. I can then create item 2. And now I can put item 2 somewhere on the grid. So wherever I want. It doesn't matter that item 2 is just below the item. Item 2 is just below the item 1 in HTML. That doesn't matter. You can put that item wherever you want on the grid. So let's try to put item 2 actually in the maybe S3 area. So I will just do, so this is going to be in the S3 area. It's going to be item 2. and we are going to make it be CC, so grayish color. Okay, and now if we take a look at it, now our item 2 is actually right here. So let's just put something in that MD area. So we create item 3. And it's going to go into grid area called MD. And the background is going to be red. Okay, so this is right here, right now. Of course, you can populate all of your other areas, but if you turn off the grid layout, you can see that the grid will work perfectly fine, even if nothing is in the areas called S1, S2, CP, or S3. No, we have something in the area S3. Okay, so this is our grid right now. Let me just show you how you can now easily change the construction of your grid using media queries. So let's create a media query that is going to fire up when the resolution is below 900 pixels. And we are going to do that for the medium grid. And so grid template areas. So let's say we want to not display our, what did we use, S3 and MD areas, but we are going to create just one area for now. So LG. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so now we have two LG areas, and it's going to take the whole width of our grid, and it's going to take 2 rows. So if I save this and now go below 900 pixels, as you can see, now our LG area is right here. So we are getting these two columns, two additional columns, because if we don't want to display the item 2 and item 3, then we should just do display none on both of them. And if I save this right now, as you can see, our LG area is going to take the whole of our grid. But if we want to display them, and we want to display them before the below the LG area, and every one of those is going to take half of the width and 3 more rows. So I'm just going to do something like this. So we are using S3 area, S3, 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 S3. So this is half, and MD area, MD, 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 MD. Okay, if I save it, now as you can see, we still have 5 rows, but S3 areas and MD areas are all half width of the page, and now actually of the grid. I can just copy this one more time. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. Save it. And now, as you can see, now this is taking the whole of our grid. LG areas is full width and 2 rows, and S3 and MD areas are half width and 3 rows. And of course, if you want to go lower, then you can just do something like this, and maybe on, let me just copy this out. And now maybe below 500 pixels, you can have all S3s right here. So S3, S3, and this is going to be MD, MD. So now we would have a large area, full width, 2 rows. Same thing with S3 area, and MD area is going to be just 1 row and full width. And this is what happens. So as you can see, that way, using grid template areas, you can do wonders with your media queries. Of course, I've shown you just simple examples of that, but you can imagine that maybe below 900 pixels, we can do something like maybe do MD here instead of LG. So MD, MD, and MD, MD. Of course, this won't work because you have to have square areas. So I'm just going to put this to be S3, S3, and S3, S3, and this one can actually be also S3, and these two remaining fields can be CP, CP, and this is also going to be CP, CP. We don't have anything in the CP area, but we can define it right here. So as you can see now we have LG is like this, MD is like this, S3 is now big, and we have one more CP area right here in which we can put our items in. This has been it for this video. Remember, everything we did here will be available for you on GitHub. The link will be in the description below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you like this channel, maybe subscribe to it. Also, if you want to send some money my way, you can do that via the Patreon page. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.